We need to talk about the last episode of Inmate to Roommate because it was a good one. But before we get into that, I do want to give a quick update on a cast member that was on last season, and that is Darquavion. So for those of you guys who may not remember, he's the one that came out and was living with Dr. Henry. He was kind of a hoarder, and he was Darquavion's counselor, and he was trying to inspire him to do better. And Darquavion, he was 25 years old, and he seemed a little hard-headed. But then he surprised me, and he came out and he got a job. He got this girl pregnant and started a little family with her, and then he ended up getting a house for his family. And it seemed like everything was on the up and up for Darquavion. Well, I just found out from the Inmate to Roommate Reddit that he is currently wanted by the Kalamazoo Police Department because he is an absconder from probation, meaning that either he has left the area that he's supposed to live in, or he ended up not showing up to one of his probation appointments and they're not able to get in contact with him. It definitely sounds like he may be up to no good since he's ducking and dodging his probation officer, and he has been absconding from his probation officer since May 1st. So it's almost going on 2 months here in just a few weeks. Now I want to talk about Deven, Daniel, and his wife Cathy. So Deven, he kind of seemed like he was up to some funny business in the last episode when he went to his sister's house, and his sister sent him all this money while he was in prison. So once he got out, the one thing she wanted from him was just for him to mow her lawn. And this man instead hangs out in her room all day long instead of mowing the lawn. He tried to mow it for a couple minutes and then gave up. Then all of a sudden this girl calls him and wants him to stop by and come see her, and he's like, oh, I can't do that. But then the next time we see him, he's got a big bruise or hickey on his neck. So it looks like he either met up with that girl or he's been trying to shoot up some dope in his neck and got a really bad track mark. And so his sister was telling him straight up, did you get high? And he's like, no, I didn't get high. And then when the producers asked him if he got high, his body language said it all. He had the most awkward, uncomfortable body language. He's like, I swear I didn't get high. Then he jumped inside his car and he went on the long drive to get back to Daniel and Cathy's home. And on the way there, he started having some issues with his car. It was smoking. He had to pull over and it looked bad. I was like, oh man, maybe this car has been sitting too long and it's just done for. But he was able to get it to cool down long enough to drive it back, but he did have to call his parole officer and say, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna make it today. And they're like, okay, we'll let this slide one time, but you're gonna have to show us some evidence. But this happens again, we're not gonna let it slide and you're gonna get violated. Deven was able to get back on the road eventually, and he did eventually make it to Daniel and Cathy's house, and he got there real late in the night. So Daniel was super understanding and welcoming. He's like, okay, this is your room, just go ahead and lay down, get some sleep, and in the morning Cathy's gonna make you some breakfast. And he goes into his room, and out of all the living setups for all these inmates on the show, I think by far Deven had the best one. He had a nice little bed that can turn into a couch. He had a full fridge. It was almost kind of like his own little mini room studio. And he ends up going to bed. The next morning, Deven wakes up. He goes to the kitchen where Cathy's making breakfast. She already has coffee made for him. The vibes were good. And he sits down. It seemed like they're all having a good old time. Cathy said that she was scared at first, but now that Deven's actually there, she's starting to feel better about the situation. And then they had breakfast, and next thing you know, we catch up with Daniel and his wife Cathy, and they look stressed the hell out, and they sent this video that they took off their phones and sent it to the producers at 10:30 that night, and they revealed that Deven had been gone all day long. As soon as they got done eating breakfast, he just dipped out in his car somewhere, and they could not get a hold of him. They had no idea what was going on, and next thing you know, at 10:30 at night, they got a call, and apparently Deven was arrested, and he got busted with dope, and he got busted with needles. Like, it didn't even take him a full day. Like, this has got to be the shortest an inmate on this show, Inmate to Roommate, has been out of prison by far. This has to be a new record. He didn't even make it a full... Well, I mean, it was probably 24 hours with his sister, but a full 24 hours once he made it to Daniel and Cathy's house. Now knowing that, everything else makes a lot more sense. Like, I feel more of the reason why he wanted to stay in his sister's town for that night was probably because his dope dealer was probably like, oh, I'm not going to be around, you got to wait till tomorrow. And Deven was like, oh, I got to have one last hurrah and stock up before I go back to Daniel and Cathy's house. And I think that's the real reason why he put off immediately going back, because he didn't really get to see his sister that much because she was working the whole time. And I feel like when he was supposed to be mowing the lawn, he probably went and met up with that girl, and I feel like that girl wasn't a good influence to begin with. She probably helped him get some stuff. I wouldn't put it past her, because he claims that this is a girl that he used to hang out with before he went to prison while he was getting in trouble. So it obviously does not sound like a good influence, and I just cannot believe that he is already back in jail. And I hope Daniel and Cathy don't feel bad and end up bonding him out. I think he needs to sit in there and learn a lesson. Now I understand why the sister didn't want to give him another chance staying at her spot. And they showed a preview for the next episode where Cathy and Daniel talk to him on the phone, and it sounds like he's in jail talking to them. And he goes, oh, it's your guys' fault because you guys turned your back on me. And Cathy was like, oh, hell no, you turned your back on us. And it's like, how are you going to try to gaslight them into thinking that it's their fault? Because they literally did nothing but go out of their way to help you. Like, Daniel literally had to drive hours upon hours to pick him up from prison. And then they set his room up, and they did everything they could to accommodate him and made him breakfast and coffee, and the man literally runs off and gets high, wants to blame everybody else but himself. I feel like Deven really dropped the ball on this one, because this was his last option, and he burned that bridge, and they were literally willing to give him a lot more freedom compared to all the other people bringing inmates in and set him up with a nice room, and he just took everything for granted and decided to just throw that all away to get high again. But that is it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. I want to cover some of the other cast members, but I'll save that for another video because I don't want to make my videos super long. But let me know what you guys think. Check out my lashes at AccordingtoAmber.com. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.